Hey folks, JB here again. As I talk about my journey and how I'm not retired right now, and I try to look back on different things in my life that I think affected me on how I look at finances and money that I didn't even know that I was learning at the time, right? So let me tell you, like there was this one story when I was a youngin', right? I was real young. I delivered newspapers from about, as I told you before, from about the age of like 9 to I think I was 13. And I had this one customer, Mr. Phillips. And anybody who's from down the way, there used to be Mr. Phillips in every neighborhood. Mr. Phillips had like a 4-story like frame apartment. It's like one, two, three, 4 floors up. And Mr. Phillips had a lot of ladies living with him. I don't know how many. I was a young guy. So let's say he probably had 8 to 10 ladies living with him. And I would take the paper over there, and on Sunday the paper would be heavy, and I'd have to walk up all of those steps because he used to like to be upstairs all the time. And I would have to get the collection money, which was $1. Well, the collection money was 90 cents. He would give $1, but he wanted his 10-cent change. Now, when you're young, you just, hey, here's your 10-cent change. If I was older, I probably would have been like, this cheap, whatever, right? But when he would do that, a lot of times the ladies would say, "Oh, you're not gonna let him have the dime? You know, it's just a dime. It's just a dime." And they said, "Come on, baby." They bring me in, and they would give me like candy. They would give me like pocket change. They would even give me like meat off the scraps for my dog, right? I mean, and then I'd leave up out of there, and I'd have extra $2 or whatever, and at that time, that's a lot of money for a young guy. But what I realized was, even back then, if I had a good attitude and I wasn't one of those bad kids, which I'm not going to say I was a great kid, but I knew how to use personality, that dime taught me how to portray myself to get that extra dime for that tip. And I was working hard for it. My 36 customers on a Sunday morning, that newspaper was like that thick. It used to have all of the coupons in it and everything. It was bigger than me. So I'd leave up out of there, and me and the dog and the wagon, we would go up to the corner store, which was probably about another 8 homes up. It was called Sweetie Mike's. Sweetie Mike's Corner Store. Sweetie Mike and Mr. Phillips both had these big, thick mustaches, right? So I go into the store, get me one of those hot sausages that was sat in a gallon vat of vinegar. Get me one of those dill pickles that sat in a gallon vat of vinegar. Pickle was that big. I'd get me some sunflower seeds. I'd get me some pretzels, some Swedish fish, the stuff that kids liked back then. But all of that came from being on time with my newspaper, not being a smart mouth little kid, making sure I just gave the change, you know. And then the ladies would say, they used to call me Little Pook, Pook. They used to call me Little Pook. And it was like, you could give Little Pook that money, and they would be like, all right, here, Little Pook, and they'd give me all of this. But I learned from a young age that if I had a good work ethic, if I was on time, which my grandfather and dad beat into me, always be on time, but I had value. That value was being on time with that newspaper that people wanted. People wanted that newspaper back then. This is before Google. The Sunday paper was everything to people back then, especially down the way, because you had all of those coupons in it. And so I had something of value. As I got older, I think that stuck with me. You know, I've thought about it a few times, but what value could I bring to the company or to somebody that would allow me to get more in a paycheck, that would allow me at that point to invest and get more that way? What was the value that I could have? And that's a lot of different other videos, but what I wanted to come to you today is I want you, as you're trying to prepare your journey and you're getting ready to, it could be retire, or you could just say I'm quitting, or whatever, stop working or change professions. But I want you to go back before you do it and think about some of the values and some of the things that you learned as a kid. You probably cut a line before. I didn't cut my first line till I was 26 years old. We didn't live like that. But go back. You probably had a newspaper route. A lot of you shoveled snow, like I was brought up in the Pittsburgh area. So, you shoveled snow every winter. We collected pop bottles. Back in the day, excuse me, back in the day, they'd give you 10 cent a pop bottle or 5 cent a pop bottle. If you had the big 32 ounce, you get more. So what did you do that you can think of back then? You may not have even realized it, but you realize it now, that was some of the foundation of what you're going through now, to get this extra money, to pay off these extra debts, to get this investments going, so you can retire early or leave work early. I just wanted to share that with you. But I picked up a lot of lessons back then. All right, it's your boy JB. I will talk to you next time. Peace.